great day to be alive. I am excited that God has given me life today. And because you're listening, you also have life today. Welcome to the Southeastern Conference of Seventh-day Adventist podcast. This is Let's Talk About the Family. We're always talking about the constituency, but the pastor who takes care of the constituency also needs some medical and mental therapy. And today in the studio, I have with me Miss Rosa Footman, and she is a licensed family therapist. She'll be talking with another good friend of mine, Dr. Rupert Bushner, who has actually over 40 years experience in pastoral ministry. You want to see what a counseling session between a therapist and a pastor will look like? Well, here it is. Good to have you, Rosa. I'm happy you could make it. I know you're busy talking to all kinds of individuals. I'm glad you could come in the studio today and meet with me. Pastor Bushner, I know you've got many sermons to write because it's crusade time. I know your members are pulling at you, but thank you also for carving the time out to come and have a session.
Hello, Dr. Bushner, and welcome to your first session. Please tell me, how are you feeling about the beginning of this experience?
I'm feeling fine. I feel like I'm in good hands with you, Rosa. We're going to talk about some things as you share with me. You kind of like put me at ease, so I'm feeling a little good. I'm feeling better now, but I think I'm gonna make it.
That's good. That's good. A lot of people feel nervous at the beginning, but that's good. So, a part of making sure that you feel comfortable in this safe space, what name would you like me to call you?
You know, that's funny because Rupert sounds so like business type and doctor. You just say Roop. R-U-P, Roop. That's what everybody calls me. Some people say Roop, 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 Roop. So Roop is fine.
Awesome, Roop. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, so there are a few things I want to make you aware of. Okay, so my code of ethics has me to keep confidentiality, of course, right? But in the event that you inform me that you want to self-harm or even harm someone else, I will have to breach that confidentiality and report it to the proper authorities. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to let you know is, in the event that you want to cry, I encourage you to cry. In that moment, we will pause, and then we will continue once you regain your composure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So with that, let's dive in. What brings you to counseling today?
Well, you know, I'm feeling a little kind of frustrated sometimes with just managing time in that, you know, trying to be able to, with family, church, home, and being able to make sure I'm giving enough time to all those different areas. Sometimes you can have a guilt trip, like you're supposed to be at the church all the time, every event. And sometimes every time the phone rings, even I think I'm supposed to answer it.
Right.
So sometimes the pressure comes thinking you can be all things to all people.
Oh, yeah.
And my struggle is just being balanced and not feeling guilt about it when I don't answer the phone or when I can't make every event or every program. I hope that people can understand.
Oh, I'm sure that's tough, having to figure it out, how to balance time with the different areas that you are playing roles in. Okay. So how long have you been experiencing this issue?
Well, earlier, it was introduced that was 30 years, but it's been 40 years. And the reason why I know it's 40 is because I'll be married 41 years coming up in September.
Amen on that one.
So I've been in ministry for about 40 years because right after we got married, we immediately went off to the seminary, in fact.
Oh, wow.
My wife always said we never had a honeymoon, but we did a lot of things in between. But the thing is, we didn't have a honeymoon by way of time. But we are having honeymoon, so.
But is she in agreement with that part, that y'all are having a honeymoon?
She might say something different, but
okay, understandable.
We come to heads with it, and every now and then we get over that hump.
Okay, that's good. You get over the hump. So tell me, okay, so what impact has it had on you personally? Like, let's say your health.
Well, you know what? I'm the type of person and it probably will affect me because I internalize a lot,
Okay.
and I don't open up as often as I should.
Oh, really?
Because I always feel like I don't want to burden anybody.
Understandable.
But at the same time, I know I need to open up. I need to share. I need to talk. And it's always therapeutic when I do. When I feel like I'm sharing with somebody
Yes, sir.
what's on my heart and what's on my mind, I do feel different. I feel better.
Okay. To know that you are a pastor and then to hear you say that you do open up at times, do you have someone you can trust and open up to other than me?
Well, that's a good question. That trust level is another issue.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
And there are certain people that I feel like I'm comfortable with talking with. But sometimes I feel like, I don't know. I'm like in between. I'm in a rock and a hard place.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes in ministry, what you say and share, if you're not careful and share with the wrong person, it can be held against you.
Oh.
And when I say held against you, it's just that you become vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that becomes like maybe an attack later on.
Down the line in ministry.
I feel that you have to have someone to talk to. There's a couple of people that I share with and talk with. My wife is the main one.
Oh, beautiful.
But then I got a couple other friends that I talk to, that I share.
I'm glad to know that you got friends that
Yeah.
you can talk to. Okay. So now, what impact has this frustration with the balancing of your time in ministry and life has it had on your family?
Well, I've worked it out. With my, it's a matter of communicating, I think.
That's true.
The priority, sharing with your family where your concerns are and how you love them and how you do want to take care of those things with them, be around them. So I
Yes.
think that's important.
Awesome. So I know you're married. And how many children do you have?
I have 5 grown children. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
5.
Beautiful. Okay, so I'm curious. When y'all got married, when you and your wife got married and y'all went away to the seminary, did y'all talk about how she would support you in ministry?
Well, from day one, she was very committed. I mean, she knew then back when we, in fact, she said, I'm not going to marry a minister. Her mother told her, you go to school, you're going to marry a minister. She said,
Oh,
no.
really?
And I guess I didn't tell her, or she didn't know I was a theology major. And we started dating and became great friends. And I think she found out later on, maybe that was in theology, just like I found out later on she could sing. I didn't even know that. So some people
really?
say you always choose somebody like either can play the piano or can sing. I did not know she could sing, and she didn't know I was theology. So we just became great friends. And then when the revelation came, we were cool with it.
It was a match. Okay, it's beautiful to hear that instead of you going forth with, oh, I'm going to be a pastor, so let's get to know each other, you were yourself naturally.
Well, at first I really was indecisive.
Oh, really?
As we were talking earlier, I guess I was talking with Pastor Brown, Mark.
Yeah.
He was talking about how he was going to go into medicine.
Yes.
Well, at the time, I thought I was going to do the same.
Oh, really?
So medicine is something that I really had a passion for.
Okay.
Being a doctor. However, I guess my call came through association because the people I was around were all theology majors.
All right.
So eventually I got to a point where I said, I'm going to be a theology major. Okay. But then I was going to try to back out of it. But then too many things kept lining up saying, you're on the right path.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
So the Lord spoke to you about it?
Yeah, because I was like, no, I don't like being in front of people. I don't like speaking. I don't like talking.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't tell when you be up there ministering, Pastor.
Yeah. As a phlegmatic,
Yes, sir.
I don't like being up front. People
Okay.
say, but something happens when I get up front that I think is something, a gift from God. And I
Understandable.
believe that God's gift that he gives, it trumps and supersedes maybe your personality and your character by way of your temperament. And he gives you enabling power, just like with Moses and other characters, biblical characters.
Yes.
God gives you that enabling power. So I got to attribute him because it's up to me. I don't like being up front. Believe it or not. I know
Okay.
that's hard to believe, but.
Okay, Mr. Roop, you got it. Okay, sir. I'm curious to know, what impact has the frustration had on your ministry itself as a pastor?
Well, it's part of a tension that you never be able to get rid of.
Oh, okay.
You manage it, and by way of being balanced by communicating. That's how I feel. And the frustration is that you have an expectation And sometimes when the expectation is not met, that's the frustration.
Yes.
So it's when I feel
Expectations
like I
play a
didn't
huge
do
part.
what I could have done. And that's where the frustration comes in.
Understandable. So I would like to put this on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, how would you rate yourself? With 1 being zero balancing, like Rosa, I suck at it. I don't give no time to the family. The ministry gets all of my time. And 10 being, yes, I have absolute balance when it comes to my time with family and my time devoted to ministry.
That's a good one. I would say about 7 or 8.
Okay, really? 7 or 8?
Yeah.
All right, so let's say 7.5.
Okay. I
Okay,
take that.
7.5. What do you think you could do to get it to an 8?
I think what I could do to an 8 is, that's a good question. I think if I would spend more intentional time with my wife. Yeah. Because the kids are they're grown.
They're grown, right?
So I'll be able to spend that time as opposed to being so busy with things that really don't benefit the relationship, by way of being intentional about dating.
Yeah.
Being intentional about spending time out without feeling guilty.
Right.
Do I supposed to be at a meeting? Am I supposed to be going somewhere? So yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I'm curious about y'all's ministry work. Like, how do y'all decide your time? Because in my head, as a church member, you're on the clock all the
Right.
time. Like, you're always on the clock. So how do you be like, don't call me?
Well, again, that's where you have to just balance. You get that communication with your members, and they'll understand if you just communicate with them and make sure you are available for them when you are available. In other words, that time that they need you, I don't like turning off my phone. I don't like saying don't call me up a certain time, but they usually respect that. My members really respect that. They do. They have parameters. In other words, they recognize that I have a family, but at this time, like I said again, it's me and my wife. My children, they come around, but it's more just me and her. But they respect that boundary, that time.
Okay, that's good. So, when it comes to the ministry, what would need to change for you to make it to a point where you can say, I'm at peace with the ministry and the time that I give to it, and then the time that you commit to dating your wife all over again now that y'all are empty nesters?
Yeah, I would say just being intentional about taking advantage of the time by way of, say, okay, for instance, I know the church needs certain things. Like I know there's service on Wednesday night. I know there's Sabbath service. I know there's community when we do outreach. All those different programs are designed to help the church. But then they recognize that there also must be time for the pastor to spend time with his spouse, his wife, so that the pastor can be happy and fulfilled.
Amen.
So that he's not disgruntled and angry and mad. But I think if anything, it's just managing your time.
Understandable. So that brings up another question that when it comes to being the leader or the CEO of a church, right? Should the decision making on what needs to happen when it comes to programming, is it just left on you, or do the elders and department leaders play a part in that?
Oh, they play a big part, yeah. By way of the vision and by way of executing, they play a major part in that. You don't want to go out there alone with your ideal and saying this is what we're going to do without buy-in. You let them know, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what we should do. This is what we can do based on the resources and personalities that we have available. And then we go ahead and move forward with what we have. Because really, sometimes, it can be frustrating when you have somebody that's pushing you and giving expectations when the church really doesn't have the resource or the personalities to fulfill that particular desire. So for me, communication, again, goes back to sitting down, looking at what we can do, what we can't do, and then moving forward together.
Awesome. I like hearing the teamwork in that. Okay. So at this time, we're going to press pause for this part of your session. And so your homework assignment group, if you decide to accept it, sir. Okay. So I need you to be able to tell me the next time we meet, what exactly do you have control over as a pastor in ministry? And I need you to think about your superior office, the conference, your pastoral leadership at church, and including your wife. What exactly do you have control over? Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. So I hope y'all had a good time watching this experience. At this time, we're going to go into part 2, and I'm going to be able to interview Dr. Brown and Dr. Bushner. Hello and welcome back, lovely people. I hope you enjoyed the counseling session for an SDA pastor who is seeking mental health for the first time. Next, we are going to be doing an interview with Dr. Brown and Dr. Bushner. I myself am Rosa Irena Footman, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. So let's get into it, right? So the first question I have for you is, can counseling help a Seventh-day Adventist pastor? And for those of you out there, I would really like to know what you think as well.
I know personally for myself, I need to open up more. So I see the need to have counseling.
Yes.
Someone you can share with on your heart. 2 is always better than 1. To be able to open up.
Yes.
I think that's necessary and needed. Now, there was a time when it was taboo.
Right.
You didn't talk. You didn't share it. We grew up. Don't cry. Suck it up. Be a man.
That's true.
But being a human is more important than being a man. So as human beings, we carry with us feelings and thoughts, and we have concerns. But then where do we go? I think women have a tendency more to share and communicate more so than men, and especially in the ministry, that's a greater need for us to really find someone to talk to because of all the demands on our life.
Ruth, it's interesting that you would say that, because I just saw some statistic, and there's about 65% of Seventh-day Adventist ministers who are just about to experience burnout because they don't have really anybody to talk to. They don't feel comfortable enough. Who do you go to? You can't go to your members.
Right.
You feel like if you go to your conference president, he might feel like, oh, so you can't handle the job. So let me put you somewhere else. Let me put somebody else in the spot. You kind of feel a little vulnerable if you go to some of your colleagues, because you might feel like they're looking at you like, well, you're not spiritual enough. Because as you said before, earlier on, it was mentally you're fine as long as you pray enough, as long as you read the Bible enough, and if you read the red books, E.G. White books enough, then you would do fine. You don't need any kind of counseling. And I'm happy that the tables are turning now, so that individuals are realizing that Bible is good and is necessary, because yes, Jesus is our counselor, and that praying is superb, and that reading E.G. White books are also very good. But we're social beings,
right?
We're social beings. I feel better not praying to you, but talking with you and knowing that it's a safe space. You've got my back. And we can interact with various things that we are facing in ministry. So yes, Rosa, to answer your question, it is a tremendous thing that ministers need to be able to bring it down a little bit and come off their high horse, and not think that if they go to a counselor, it's because they're mad, because that was the stigma before. You're crazy. That's why you're going to a therapist
in the first place, right? Y'all both made good points. And another thing that I want to point out from the clinical lens, I would say the answer to the question is no and yes. No, because a pastor, whether they are male or female, could be forced to go seek out mental health therapy. And so they may not engage in the session, so the therapist may not even be a good fit. Whereas on the other hand, it can be beneficial if the pastor comes in with the open mind. Yes, I'm here for me. I'm here to improve and better myself emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
I have a different perspective on
Please
this.
share. Please share.
Rosa. And this may rub some of the pastors the wrong way, but I think there should be a somewhat of a mandatory checkup.
Oh, okay.
On a yearly basis.
Makes sense.
Why I'm saying that is because when one is a pastor, and I think Roop will kind of back me up on this. Members offload on us.
Yes, they do.
On a daily basis.
Yes,
on
they
a
do.
weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here trying to fix them, or try to help to fix them.
Right.
But where do we offload the stuff that was offloaded on us?
That's a good question.
Okay, and not just us as ministers in the gospel, but our family members, because a lot of times we as the pastor in the pulpit may feel like everything is okay, but our spouse that's sitting in the congregation or is in the family
different.
feels like this is not okay.
Right.
And worst, our children may even think this is really, really not okay. And so why I said to you initially,
yes.
I think it needs to be a mandatory thing. It needs to be something where on an annual basis, the pastor needs to go with his family to talk to somebody, because he may be of a notion that everything is okay. And it's not.
It's not. That's a good. But that's a good point.
I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, you know what? We do a physical health every year. In fact, we find out our numbers, our height, whether or not you go check your blood work, your glucose and cholesterol, and we check all the numbers when it comes to our physical health.
Right.
But we shy away from doing something, like you said, annually with our mental health. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be nice. And not only that, maybe you need a mental retreat. Maybe you need to get away once you assess that. So that can be added to that. Mm-hmm. I think if you get that mental health, if you get that checkup, what happens if you say, hey, I need help? Then where do we go from there? Yeah. I mean,
right.
But being able to, at that time, get the help and maybe get away. A sabbatical, I don't know. Sometimes we don't get those type of things. However,
right.
I think it comes maybe one or two, maybe get it a year. I think the conference need to have it in the budget where you can get those sabbaticals maybe for different ministers who need to get away.
Well, I hope they're listening and taking notes. But thank you for bringing up the part about family and them going together as a family, so the pastor doesn't feel like he or she is in it alone. And so that brings up the next question. In what ways can a pastor experience anxiety or depression in his ministry?
Well, many times you don't know whether or not you're making the right decisions, because you are the CEO of this
right.
this corporation. Many times you have more than one churches that you're dealing with, and each church has its own personality.
That's right.
And with this person with this different personality, you've got to also know how to handle yourself as you deal with them,
right?
Because it's not a one structure fits all.
Right.
You've got to be able to be versatile.
Flexible.
I've seen it in my ministry,
right.
where I've got a predominantly West Indian congregation that worships a certain way,
right.
and then I've got a predominantly Black American congregation that worships a different way,
right.
In the same district. And I need to be able to minister to them both without them feeling like I'm forcing on the predominantly Black American congregation a West Indian flavor,
Right.
or I'm forcing on the predominantly West Indian congregation a black flavor.
Right.
And so sometimes I find myself second guessing myself. You know, am I relevant? Am I not relevant?
Oh, wow.
What do I need to tweak? How do I need to do this?
Right. Right.
How do I need to preach? What can I?
Do you preach? Right.
Or do you preach?
Yeah.
Yeah, because both, even though there are some similarities, there are some differences.
Right. But you have to be aware of.
Well, another part of that anxiety comes between the unique situation where as Seventh-day Adventist ministers, we have a local church that we
Right.
pastor, but then we have a conference, which is like the headquarters of all the churches. But you have to, between the two, with your local church, they have expectations. Then the conference has expectations by way of, for instance, goals and financial responsibility, making sure they understand the need to, for instance, even the issue of how much money we send to the conference. We need something here locally to help out our
Right.
little church. Our little church is struggling.
Yes.
Then as a pastor, you want to be, faithful to the responsibility that you're called to do. The tithe goes to the conference, and sometimes we got to keep reiterating this same conversation. The tithe is not debatable. It goes to the conference. We got to make sure we give faithfully here.
Right.
And so those type of things, as pastors, we deal with those issues when it comes to the balance between the conference and the local church. That could be sometimes bring them on anxiety as far as making sure the balance is there and they understand that.
Piggybacking on that, Roop, is that we're the go-between, and there are some individuals that are in the congregation that are kind of anti-conference.
True.
And so being able to to balance that so that you don't appear to be, oh, you're the conference person,
Right.
or oh, you're the church person, because you're the go-between. You are not hired by the church, you're hired by the conference.
Right.
And so you still have to represent the conference. So even though individuals may want to badmouth the conference, you've got to make sure that you make this smooth
Right.
enough that the people will still, to a great degree, support the conference. Because and by support, we're talking about by going to different conference programs and also returning their tithe.
Right.
Because it's the tithe through which we get paid,
Right.
not the offering. And the offering stays at the church.
Stays local.
The tithe comes up to the conference.
Right.
We can't then badmouth the conference because that's who we get paid from.
Right.
That's who we get paid from. So it's a delicate balancing act that you've got to put on, which sometimes, a lot of times, gives a lot of pressure, again, depending on the personality
Right.
of the church that you're dealing with.
Okay. Y'all make good points. Now, I'm curious. I want to go a little bit deeper on this question, right? Expectations. You said you don't know about the decision making can be a little bit iffy. You can question it. So my personal question is this: when it comes to your evangelistical efforts, how do you manage your expectations now, with us being in the year 2024, and the way we do evangelism now is much different than years ago, where we put up tents, we were out there loud with our music, bold, beautiful. So how do you handle expectations now when it comes to your evangelistical efforts? And some people, some pastors are saying like single digit baptisms. So how do you handle that?
Well, for me, I think personally, you got to look at the personality of the church. Sometimes you can do a prophetic meeting where you have like outright preaching. Sometimes it may be a seminar. Sometimes it may be Bible study. Sometimes it may be a felt need seminar, positive parenting, stress related, finances. So it could differ. It varies now because of the contemporary mindset, whereas people now are not as readily coming to churches because of so many diversions. They're doing a lot. Back in the day, people came to a tent because it was just the thing to do.
Right.
What's this big thing going on? Out of curiosity and interest, they show up. But now, when you have programs in your churches or in a hall, you have to be intentional, especially the members, about bringing people to those events. So if you don't get buy-in from the members, then it won't go. It won't go far. So for evangelism, you really have to have a church culture created where people see the need to reach out, because some churches are comfortable really with themselves and don't see the need. So again, as a pastor, you become that enzyme, that ever ready bunny that's got to push them to know that this is why we're here. This gospel should be preached. Go ye therefore to all the world and make disciples. The end goal is to make disciples. And so the church has to understand why we're here. We're not just a social club. So again, as a pastor, that's part of the job requirement, is pushing our members to do evangelism, outreach, but then looking at the context of your church, looking at the culture of the church. Then you have to find out, what can we do with what we have to meet that need.
Awesome.
We live in a very, it's a great time to be alive.
It is.
It is a great time to be alive. Evangelism, I look at, is something that takes place on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, Rosa.
That's a good way to look at it.
And why I say that is because COVID-19 came in.
It did.
And when COVID-19 came in, it forced us out of the walls of the church.
Yes, it did.
But when we got back into the church, we did online.
We did.
So I believe with all my heart, online services are here to stay.
Yes.
Now, online services goes to everybody and anybody online.
Yes.
So I say to the church members, I say to the pastors, every Sabbath that you've got a service going on, it's an evangelistic service, because you don't know who is going to watch it.
That's great
Whether
encouragement.
watch it in the moment as it is being streamed, or we'll go back to view it.
Right.
Whether in Europe, Asia, Africa, wherever. So evangelism is taking place.
It has evolved.
It has evolved.
Yes.
I don't even know that we can even accurately put a finger on who we're reaching, because we don't know who we're reaching. But I believe that this is part of God's strategy of this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness.
Yes.
And then shall the end come. Because we were siloed in our respective churches, the individuals who lived next door to our church may think that, oh, they've got a funeral going on every Saturday, because the nominal person doesn't think of church on a Saturday. So when they see folk dressing up and going into a church, all they can think of is funeral. And they're like, oh, man, is there anybody left in their congregation? Because every Saturday they got a funeral going on over there. But it's not a funeral. But now they're able to go online and see what's taking place, because there are many individuals who are intimidated about coming into our sanctuary. But now you can sit in your car and be at service.
Yes,
you can be in your living room and see the service. You can be anywhere and see the service. So again, to go back to your question, the pastor has goals. The church has goals.
Okay, that's
the
a good
conference
point.
has goals.
Right.
That they're asking you to meet. Sometimes those goals are seen and are tangible. I'm saying to you that in this era, sometimes those goals are not tangible because you don't know who is seeing and who are making decisions for Christ as you preach.
Right. That's a good explanation. So this next question, because you mentioned the goals of the church itself, the goals of the pastor themselves, and then the goals of the conference. So, with the 3 sets of goals in play, can a pastor effectively set healthy boundaries with the conference? And please explain why.
Well, I believe that the pastor can set healthy boundaries. The pastor is there not to do the work all by himself.
Okay, good point.
One of our more senior pastors had this phrase to say, shepherds don't produce sheep. Sheep produce sheep.
Mm-hmm.
So it is part of the pastor's responsibility to equip the members to be able to bring more members.
Okay.
Because again, Rosa, my idea is friendship evangelism is better than just event evangelism.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
You have an event and folk are excited.
Right.
And they come to that event
They
for
do.
2 weeks, 3 weeks. Back in our days, way back, it was a 6-week to 8-week.
Yes.
Those who know E.E. Cleveland know that he didn't run anything less than 6 or 8 weeks,
Right.
under a tent. Folk don't. We've moved away from that paradigm because folk are not coming to an 8-week seminar like that under a dusty tent.
Right.
But I believe if we have friendship evangelism, because we're social beings,
Right. Right.
having a relationship with somebody that is in the church will also help you to stay in the church, as opposed to coming to an event that you just got hyped up over, and you really did not have any strong connection with individuals in the church.
Right.
After a while, if you don't if you don't have such a strong relationship, you'll soon just fade away.
Wither away. Yeah. Understandable. Do you have any input on that, Dr.?
Well, I agree 100. I mean, you have to make friends with people, because people usually stay in the church when they have friends that they know or somebody that they met. Even after they join the church, they say if somebody can befriend them, usually for the chances are for them staying is greater. So when they come in, got to create a culture where we concern ourselves with the people, and we got to love on them, and they have to feel that love. So really, as a pastor, when you talk about tension, it's about teaching. It's almost like, when you're growing up, your parents make sure you all got along.
Right.
Well, as a pastor, you want to make sure your church has that chemistry where you're going to receive new members, because they say they come in, leave out. It's because they didn't never found a friend. They never felt comfortable enough. They know the truth is the truth. They accept it.
Right.
But then watching the dynamics of how people are treated is what kind of like make you feel like, wow, come on, people, let's do better than that.
Right. I like your responses, and it makes me think about the pastor watching his flock as the new potential members come in, and having to acknowledge that, my flock is not, they are not doing their job. They are not doing their part in this evangelistical era where it's more hands-on now. So, right. So let's talk about stress. When a pastor experiences stress, it can vary, right? So what would y'all say? Because between the both of you, y'all have 70 years of experience in the ministry. So what would you say are good relievers of stress? Healthy relievers of stress as pastors?
Well, for me, I like just sometimes working out, going to the gym. That's therapeutic for me. Put my headphones on. Even then, I really don't want to, a whole lot of conversation, because you have a lot of people want to stop being taught. But in there, it's almost like you're in your own sanctuary.
Okay.
For me, I'm in there working out. I like swimming. I like, doing those type of things. Swimming,
that's good.
going to the gym, and then just basically spending some time with the wife, going out, maybe just walking or just taking a date. That's how I find myself getting lost in it. Just
Awesome.
relieved.
Awesome. What about you, Dr. Brown?
My stress reliever is I like to ride. I ride bicycle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so I will take my bicycle out and do 20 miles.
See, that's not normal. That's all I'm gonna say.
20 miles?
Yeah,
just
do 20 miles.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Just put in my earphone and listen to Brooklyn Tab and just pedal away. Just pedal away.
Awesome.
And when I get back, I'm refreshed. I'm good to go. I'm good to go.
Well, that's good. Have y'all thought about trying any other ways of easing your stress? Or what would you recommend?
Well, I would recommend to my colleagues to of course have an exercise regime. I would also stress to them to make sure that they've got good communication with their family, their spouse,
right.
their children.
Communication is key.
And take the time away from the congregants when at appropriate times.
Right.
Too many of us feel like if we're not there all the time, then the church is going to fall apart. And yet there are colleagues of us who have passed away, and the church still goes on. We feel like, okay, well, if we're not there, then everything will collapse, and it won't. It won't. Life will go on. Time won't even stop for you. Things will just continue as they have been. So one of the things that I want to stress, Rosa, and thanks for coming by, is we need to take care of our physical health, but we also take care of our mental health.
Correct.
As Ruth mentioned, we go for physicals on an annual basis. We need to take care of our mental health so that we have this balance. Spiritually, we also need to take care of our spiritual health. Not because we're preparing sermons mean we're spiritually intact. We need to take some time for our spiritual health also.
Awesome.
And I think about the text, as a man thinketh, so is he. So that's the reason why it's important for that mental health to be in place and be intact. And we have to do what we have to do and stop thinking that it's a negative for me to have to see a therapist or go talk to somebody. At one time, that's how we've been taught. But now, no, you gotta release it.
You do.
You gotta have a way of just talking to somebody.
Awesome.
And I agree 100%.
Well, thank you for the encouraging words, and I hope you all who have been watching have been moved and encouraged to go get you a therapist. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it, and the best part about it is nobody has to know. If you don't tell, nobody has to know. So, Dr. Brown, do you have any?
Yes, I've got some final comments. Rosa, thank you very much for bringing an awareness to us as pastors that we need to step up our game with regards to mental health.
Yes.
Because I think that oftentimes we have just brushed it aside. So I really appreciate you taking the time off to come here to make us more aware as ministers that we need to take the time to take care of our mental health.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
I also want to say thanks to you also, man, but I just invited you to come and just have a little chat in the studio, and you said okay.
I'll do it.
To our online guests, we want to say thank you for watching this episode, and we want you to like and subscribe to the Southeastern Conference podcast, and please look for many other podcasts like this and others to come. God bless you. Go with God and be a blessing. I sincerely hope that the ministers have been inspired to get some mental health.